You're looking at something that doesn't exist. No one filmed this. No one lit it. No camera was in the room. An artificial intelligence made this image from a sentence.
That sentence was, close-up of butter melting in a copper pan, steam rising, warm amber light. And it worked, because the sentence told the machine exactly what to show. This is also something an artificial intelligence made from a sentence. That sentence was, butter's warm embrace. This is a film about the difference between those two sentences, and about what happens when you confuse one kind of instruction for the other. Let's start with something simple. How does an AI make a video from a sentence? You type a description. A copper pan on a stove. Butter melting, steam rising. The machine has been trained on millions of images and videos. It has learned patterns. Copper looks like this. Butter moves like this. Steam behaves like this. It assembles those patterns into something new. Something that never existed before. When the description is specific, when it names physical things the machine has seen before, the results can be remarkable. You say, spoon moving through golden sauce, and you get a spoon moving through golden sauce. It works because the machine knows what spoons look like. It knows what sauce looks like. It knows how spoons move through liquids. But here is the crucial thing to understand. And this is the lesson that cost us a month of work. The machine does not understand meaning. It understands patterns. It does not know what butter is. It knows what butter looks like. And there is an enormous difference between those two things.
When you give it a description that refers to something visible, copper pan, melting butter, rising steam, it can find the right patterns. But when you give it a description that refers to a feeling, an idea, a metaphor, the machine has to guess. And when a machine guesses about human meaning, very strange things happen.
Here is what we tried to do. A 30-minute documentary about Bernaise sauce, the French emulsion made from butter, egg yolk, tarragon, and shallots. All of it generated by artificial intelligence. 88 scenes, 290 individual shots, 13 scenes of a chef talking to camera, those were generated by one AI model. 71 scenes of food, kitchens, ingredients generated by another model called LTX2.
The talking head scenes came out well. Surprisingly well. When you ask the machine to generate a person talking to a camera, it does a decent job. It's been trained on enormous amounts of video of people talking to cameras.
The food scenes were a different story. We wrote 290 descriptions for food and kitchen shots, and nearly half of them failed. Not because the technology was broken, because the descriptions were wrong. Here is the first thing that went wrong. And it is the most important lesson in this entire film. One of our descriptions said, and listen carefully, slow push in on melting butter. Butter's warm embrace beginning to emerge. Butter's warm embrace. To a human, that's a poetic way of saying butter is comforting. We all understand that. It's a metaphor. But the machine doesn't know what a metaphor is. The machine read, warm embrace, and looked for patterns that match those words. What does warm embrace look like in the millions of videos it was trained on? It looks like a person hugging someone, so that's what it generated. A person hugging. Here's another one. The description said, push in reaches closest point as compounds trigger something primal, ancient recognition in human brain. Hold on instinct.
Something primal. Ancient recognition. Hold on, instinct. What do those words look like? The machine went to the most primal, most ancient images it knew. Trees, forests, caves. Not a kitchen, not butter, a forest.
The filmmaker who reviewed this clip wrote, it's a tree in a forest. Doesn't relate to the prompt. The prompt is not concrete and full of metaphor. Another description said, slow push in on the marriage of elements. Marriage of elements. The machine generated something approaching a wedding scene. Because that's what the word marriage looks like in its training data. Not a chemical reaction. A wedding.
Here is the rule, and it is absolute. Whatever you write, the machine will try to draw literally. If you write warm embrace, it draws an embrace. If you write marriage, it draws a marriage. Poetry to this machine is not poetry. It is a set of instructions that it follows as faithfully and as wrongly as possible.
The second pattern is subtler and took us longer to understand.
Some of our descriptions said things like close up of melting butter in a pan. Simple. Concrete. No metaphor. But the generated video showed a person talking to camera.
The filmmaker's review. The prompt says nothing about a person talking, yet the segment is entirely a person talking.
Why? Because the machine learned its patterns from real cooking videos. And in real cooking videos, there is almost always a chef in frame. The camera shows a pan and a person standing behind it. The machine learned that kitchen and person go together. So even when you don't mention a person, the machine adds one.
This is called association bias. The machine isn't being disobedient. It's being too obedient to patterns it learned from data, not patterns you wrote in your description. And you cannot argue with it. You cannot say, but I didn't ask for a person. The machine doesn't know what asking means. It knows what kitchens look like, and kitchens have people in them.
The third pattern is the simplest and perhaps the saddest.
Some descriptions said things like, hold on the essence of reduction, or motion apex on willingness, or gentle drift toward the precision of technique.
What does the essence of reduction look like? What color is willingness? What shape is the precision of technique?
The filmmaker wrote, very metaphoric language produced something that can't really be named.
And too close to the point nobody knows what it is.
And simply, I have no idea what this is.
The machine was asked to photograph a concept. Concepts don't have a color. They don't have a shape. They don't move through space. The machine tried anyway and produced visual noise.
And the fourth pattern, the one that should embarrass us most.
35 of our 290 shots had no descriptions at all. The field was blank. We asked the machine to generate video from nothing, and it generated nothing useful.
The filmmaker's review of one of these blank prompt shots. The prompt doesn't mention what should even be generated. Unacceptable.
We built a database that tracked every failure in detail. We could count exactly how many clips failed from metaphor, how many from association, how many from vagueness. We could categorize the wreckage with scientific precision. We just couldn't stop creating it.
Now, you might think the lesson is simply write better descriptions, be concrete, say butter in a copper pan instead of butter's warm embrace.
And that's true. That is the immediate lesson. But there's a deeper one.
We knew the descriptions were bad. We discovered the patterns early. The metaphors, the talking heads, the vagueness. We cataloged them. We even rewrote 14 of the worst descriptions. We wrote a 10-point guide for better descriptions based on everything we'd learned.
And then we kept building infrastructure instead of rewriting the remaining 276 descriptions.
We built a database with 303 nodes and hundreds of relationships tracking every attempt, every review, every artifact. We built a web interface with video players and drop-down menus. We rented GPU machines in the cloud and wrote scripts to manage them. We designed a council of artificial intelligence models to judge the output of other artificial intelligence models.
And we reviewed 15 of 88 scenes, then stopped.
15 of 88.
The filmmaker's actual words, typed into the system over weeks of work, tell the real story. They kept asking the machine, what is happening? And what are you doing? And continue. And then, what is happening again?
The bottleneck was never generation speed. A machine can produce 500 clips in a few hours. The bottleneck was a human being sitting in front of a screen, watching each clip, deciding if it worked and typing, "This doesn't look like clarified butter."
We optimized for cost. $6 to generate 500 clips instead of 160. We optimized for speed. 4 machines running in parallel. We optimized for tracking. Every failure logged and categorized.
We did not optimize for the only thing that mattered: writing 290 clear, concrete, literal descriptions of what a camera should see.
Let me show you what we learned. Applied. The bad description. Push in reaches closest point as compounds trigger something primal. Diacetyl and butyric acid visible as aromatic steam. Ancient recognition in human brain. Hold on instinct.
Something primal. Ancient recognition. Hold on instinct. Not one of those phrases describes something a camera can photograph.
The good description rewritten. Extreme close-up of butter melting in a copper saucepan. Amber liquid pools at the bottom. White foam forms on the surface and slowly clears. Wisps of steam rise into warm overhead light. The camera pushes in slowly over 5 seconds. Single continuous shot.
Every noun in that sentence is a physical object. Butter, copper, liquid, foam, steam, light, camera. The machine knows what all of those things look like. It can assemble them into a coherent image.
Here's the principle, and it applies to every AI image or video tool that exists today and will exist for years to come.
Describe what a camera sees, not what a viewer feels, not what a poet means. What a camera sees. Physical objects, physical actions, physical light.
If your description contains the word essence or embrace or instinct or soul, and you are not describing a perfume bottle, a person hugging, an animal hunting, or a church, the machine will fail. It will fail because those words do not have a shape, and the machine can only make shapes.
Bernaise is an emulsion. Butter and vinegar held together by egg yolk. If you heat it too fast, the butter separates and the sauce breaks. If you don't whisk enough, the emulsion never forms. The technique is patience, attention, knowing when to add the next piece of butter. Not too fast, not too much.
We added too much too fast. We built infrastructure when we should have been writing descriptions. We tracked failure when we should have been preventing it. We generated 500 clips when we should have perfected 5.
The sauce broke.
But any chef will tell you, you learn more from a broken sauce than a perfect one, because the broken one teaches you exactly where your attention lapsed. Ours lapsed at the beginning, at the words, at the descriptions that told a machine to photograph a feeling instead of a thing.
Next time, we'll describe things.